Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever the case may be. This is Mike, and this is A View from the North. It's also going to be Mike Dell's World 316. I'm going to go ahead and put this out on both feeds. So if you are subscribed to both, go ahead and delete the other one because it's going to be roughly the same thing. Actually, it is going to be the same thing. But anyway, that's technical geeky stuff. Just a little update here from the snowy cold. Well, not so cold. It's 23 degrees. That's actually not too bad considering what it has been and what it's going to be next week. Nice thing about next week is I won't have to participate past Wednesday. Heading out to one of my first trips of the year. Well, is it the first trip? First trip of the season of all these conferences and things that I'm going to over the next 2 or 3 months. So heading down to Orlando, Florida, and then I'm going to take a few days vacation and head down to South Florida, visit some family and all that good stuff. So Wednesday, I are out of here for a little while. But, this is Saturday morning at the time of recording. What is it, March 2nd? And winter is still afoot, or underfoot, or in the driveway, whatever. Looks like we got a couple inches of snow last night, which kind of bummed me out. I had the driveway all nice and cleaned up and everything, and both the truck and the van were thawed and didn't have snow all over them or anything, and everything was going good this week. But oh well. I'll probably go out there sometime in the morning or sometime this afternoon and blow the snow out of the driveway. It's supposed to be sunny and supposed to quit snowing. It's supposed to get really cold. Okay, I know you didn't tune in here to talk about the weather. But actually, I want to talk about some podcasting stuff. And I know this show is not a show about podcasting, but seems to be that's what's been going on in my world. So this is what I talk about on Mike Dell's World and A View from the North. So Apple on, I think it was Wednesday night or Thursday, sent out an email outlining this pack of rules that they've had for a while, saying, you can't stuff extra terms in your keywords, or you can't stuff keywords or extra terms in your titles or your author tag. And people were getting thrown out of Apple Podcasts because of it. Examples would be, putting descriptive terms in your title tag. So, instead of this being Mike Dell's World, someone that was stuffing keywords would put, this is, Mike Dell's World dash, or pipe sign actually was the divider of choice in these really spammy titles. And then it would be something like Northern Michigan Podcast, Traverse City Podcast, the number one podcast in Traverse City, just all these keywords to help with the search within Apple, because the search within Apple is kind of lousy. I know people use all these other apps to listen to podcasts, but everybody focuses on Apple because they are the 800-pound gorilla. But anyway, they finally put it into writing and sent it out to all the podcast producers that were on the platform. But one line that sent everybody into a tizzy was one of the reasons you could get removed from Apple Podcasts would be for having episode numbers in your titles. And oh my gosh, you would have thought the end of the world was happening, and rightly so, because having episode numbers in the titles of podcasts episodes has been a tradition since I started this, since before I started this. Adam Curry, the Daily Source Code, one of the first podcasts out there. He always had numbers in his title, and all these podcasts. My friend Todd has a show that I don't know. He's 1,400 episodes in, and he's numbered every one of them. And, so, that's been a big tradition in the podcasting space. And then all of a sudden, Apple comes out with this bombshell of a note. And, it rightly freaked everybody out. I think that email had gone out, and it wasn't 15 minutes. My phone was ringing, my email box was filling up at work, and it was just crazy, and, something that you should be aware of, even if you're not a podcaster or, somebody that really follows the industry. That threw a wrench into a lot of people's world. And of course, Apple put out a clarifying email yesterday, twice actually. They screwed up the first time. They looks like they were typing the email and hit send too soon, because it cut off mid-sentence. And then probably half hour later, we got a revised copy of that email, which was complete, although it wasn't written very well. And it was, in my opinion, they were backing down. But in a lot of people's opinion, it was just a clarification. And in big bold letters, it says, "Your show will not be removed from Apple Podcasts for having episode numbers in the titles." And then they go on explaining about their special tags that they came out with a year and a half ago, and you should implement those instead. And whatever. I mean, it's fine. They are the 800-pound gorilla, but they're not 100%. They're somewhere between 50-60% industry-wide of podcast listeners use Apple software and or devices to listen to podcasts, but not everybody. I have an Android tablet sitting right here on the desk in the studio, and got probably 10 podcast apps on it. I do that for testing purposes due to the job, but it's something else. When one big company can throw the whole of an industry into a tizzy. Now, I wouldn't say the whole of the industry. I'm sure all the big guys didn't even hear about it, and all of us indies and people that work in the industry did hear about it. So that was kind of a big deal this week. And anyway, so since they've said, well, it won't happen, that's fine. But you'll notice that if you are listening to Mike Dell's World anyway, instead of View from the North, if you're listening to Mike Dell's World, you'll notice, if you're using Apple, an Apple phone or iPad or iPod Touch, that there will be no number in the title. If you're using another app, some of them will, some of them won't have the number in the title. So that's just the way it's going to have to be from here on out. So, no big deal. I don't care, really. It's just, I didn't want all my customers and clients and all that to go back and have to edit 300 episodes. And the reason I say 300, because that's the absolute limit of episodes that can be in the Apple Podcast directory for any one show. So even if you had over 300 episodes, you would only have to go back that far. And in my case, I'm cutting my feeds back. All the different shows that I do, the feeds are going to be limited to 25. And that's okay. That's, because you can come to Mike Dell's World, or you come to MikeDell.com, or, in the case of my podcast about podcasting, you can go to podcasthelpdesk.com, and you can listen to all the shows. You can even download all the shows. But as far as getting them through the apps, I'm just going to limit to 25. That does a couple things anyway. It makes the feed faster and all that. And, my stuff isn't really super evergreen anyway, so, who wants to go back and listen to something from 3 years ago? Of course, on this show, I actually replay stuff once in a while, but only particularly interesting things, I hope. So anyway, that's what's been consuming my world this week. I think most of the panic has subsided and all that, but I really think it's kind of crappy that these big companies can make everybody jump through hoops, especially the little guys. Spotify has done it. Apple does it. I'm sure somebody else will try to do it. Google, you name it. Somebody, every once in a while, these big companies they mess up or they or try to flex their muscle. I think Apple's case, they wanted to make a splash. Spotify has been getting a lot of press lately because of the acquisitions that they've made, and they're throwing money around, and I think Apple was feeling a little threatened, so they thought they'd make a splash, but I think they splashed the wrong way and got wet. Whatever. Apple's Apple, and they'll do what they do, and Spotify's Spotify, and they'll do what they do. And those of us that are independents or the smaller podcast companies that are eking out a living in this industry will do fine. It's all good. It's just, you got to jump through some hoops sometimes, and it is what it is. So anyway, that's really all I had for kind of this update. It was kind of nice this week. Also got to get back with my original co-host on the Your Podcast, Blueberry's official podcast. Todd Cochran, our CEO, was on the road for like 2 months, so I had a series of guest hosts. So it was kind of fun to introduce him as a guest host after 2 months of being off the show. And I said, well, I got another special guest host today, and go ahead and introduce yourself. It was kind of fun, I thought. Anyway, so go check that out, powerpresspodcast.com. It'll be out Monday morning. Episode 52, which is our 2-year anniversary on that show. That's our company podcast, comes out every 2 weeks, and we talk about the podcast industry and more specifically our company. So interesting, and we had a lot to say about the whole Apple thing, of course. But anyway, and then I've put out a couple episodes of Podcast Help Desk because of the Apple thing. And if you are a podcaster and you're concerned about said things, we give you some advice on how to proceed going forward to future-proof yourself. So go ahead and check that out if you are a podcaster. If you're not a podcaster, sorry, this is probably boring. So it is what it is. So everybody have a good week. I am going to attempt to do some from the road episodes, both on the View from the North feed and the Mike Dell's World feed. Probably not combined like this, because sometimes it's going to be easier to do on the View from the North, just because I only need my phone to do that. And so we'll try to do some remote reporting. Looking forward to, what is it? Today's Tuesday. No, today's Saturday. Saturday we'll be driving over to Bonita Springs, Saturday afternoon, evening. And then, let's see, Tuesday probably, and we'll be coming from either Marco Island or Chokoloskee or Everglades City or somewhere down there. Family, depends on what the weather's like and what's going on, but we'll probably be coming from down there. And my co-host on What's Up With That, Jim Farley's down there for the winter, so we're hoping to hook up with him and do dinner at least and hang out. So maybe I'll break out the recorder and we'll get a little recording with Jimbo, and that'll be kind of cool. So that's the plan. And like I said, if you're listening to this on A View from the North, go over to MikeDell.com and you can subscribe to Mike Dell's World and all the other podcasts that I do. Fast Food History, Your Podcast, PowerPress, or not PowerPress Podcast. That's just where Your Podcast is. And what's the other one? Podcast Help Desk and Podcast Help Desk News, which is a Amazon flash briefing and podcast. So, I'm talking a lot. Oh, well. Nobody accused me of being quiet, I guess. Catch me later.